Good morning, John Muir Scholars. I wanted to read to you another special book, Cat in the Hat here. When I was a second grade teacher, I used to really love to read this book to my students, and hopefully you'll like it too. It's called Big Al. It was written and illustrated by Andrew Clements Yoshi. So, this is about a fish called Big Al. In the wide blue sea, there was a very friendly fish named Big Al. You could not find a nicer fish. But Big Al was also very, very scary. Other fish seemed to have at least one friend. Some had many, but Big Al had none. He did not really blame the other fish. How could he expect little fish to trust such a big fish with eyes and skin and teeth like this? So Big Al was lonely and cried big salty tears into the big salty sea. But Big Al really wanted friends, so he worked at it. First, he tried wrapping himself up with seaweed. He thought it was a great disguise, but no one else did. Who wants to stop and talk to a floating plant that has big, sharp teeth? Then he thought if he puffed himself up round, the other fish would laugh and they would see how clever and silly he could be. And they saw how big he could be and they steered clear. So you can see all the little fish. They don't want to play with Big Al, but he's trying. Very early one morning, Big Al went to the bottom and flopped and wiggled himself into the sand until he almost covered up. He looked much smaller. When other fish came near, Big Al talked and joked with them, and he had a delightful time. But then one scratchy little grain of sand stuck in his gills, and he sneezed. When the clouds of sand cleared away, all of the other fish were gone. So he scared them again. Big Al even changed his color one day so he could look like he belonged to a school of tiny fish passing by. He bubbled along with them for a while, laughing and feeling like he was just one of the crowd. But he was so big and clumsy that when all the tiny fish darted to the left and then quickly back to the right, Big Al just plowed straight ahead. He went bumping and thumping right into the little fish. Before he could even say, "Excuse me," they were gone, and he was all alone again, sadder than ever. Just when Big Al was starting to be sure that he would never have a single friend, something happened. He was floating along sadly, watching some of the smaller fish, and was wishing they would come closer. As he watched, a net dropped down silently from above, and in an instant, they were caught. So all of the little fish are in a fish net. Big Al forgot all about being lonely. He forgot all about being sad. His eyes bulged out bigger and rounder than ever. And with a mighty flip of his tail, he opened his mouth and charged straight at the nest. The net was strong, but Big Al was stronger. He ripped right through it, and all the little fish rushed out through the hole. So he used those big teeth to cut the netting. But when Big Al tried to turn around and go out of the hole, he got all tangled up in the net. He was stuck. The net went higher and higher towards the bright surface of the sea, and the little fish watched Big Al as he disappeared above. When the little fish were able to speak again, all they could talk about was the huge, wonderful fish that had saved them. How great to be free, but what a shame that the big fellow had been captured. Just then, there was a tremendous crashing splash above them, and the small fish dashed away. Was it the net again? Not at all. It was Big Al. Those fishermen took one look at him and threw him right back into the ocean. And now there is one huge, puffy, scary, fierce-looking fish in the sea who has more friends than anyone else. Big Al. So this story to me is really about the differences in each other. We all look different. We sometimes talk different. We are different people, and we should definitely embrace our differences and like people, not because they're like us, but because people choose to be who they are. And sometimes, we could look different or be different, as I said. Just make sure you're kind and friendly. This is really about kindness. And Big Al was a good fish. So in the end, he helped his friends and he was not lonely anymore. So hope you liked this book, Big Al.